It's me, Ari Dosset. I've noticed on YouTube that there is this trend going on where people discuss the Kiely Rodni case. Well, there's nothing wrong with YouTubers discussing a case. They're free to do that, as long as they remain within the YouTube community guidelines. What I see now is that some YouTubers appear obsessed with this case. I counted a 14-hour live stream yesterday, and today I saw a 17-hour live stream. I'm thinking, what? 14 hours? 17 hours? Others said 8-hour live streams? Okay, I know some people are fanatics. They really want to solve cases. Okay, that's them. But people, this has become a kind of an obsession to a lot of folks. And what happened to Kiely Rodni? Look, I'm not saying the case is not important at all, because there are relatives now who have to live without her being around. There are friends, people that love this girl, that have to continue life without her. So I'm not saying the case is not important. What I'm noticing as an outsider, and as you know, I'm not from the United States, I'm not in the United States, I'm all the way here in the Netherlands, and the only reason I ever heard of this case was because it was mentioned one time. Somewhere in a true crime video that I watched, someone in the comment section mentioned it. So I thought, Kiely Rodni, and I've heard about the name before. So I began to do a Google search. Long story short, I found out about the case, I looked into it, and I made a live stream about it. Some of you have seen it. And I've explained in that live stream that I hope I was wrong, but it seemed like this was a sympathy ritual going on. A sympathy ritual is when a community, just to cover and to protect their own reputation, would kill one of their own just to get sympathy from the public. Now, I said hope I was wrong. Alright? I didn't say it was proven what I was thinking. Some YouTubers out there, they think they know what happened. I'm saying this is my perception of it. And I hope I'm wrong, because I hope that's not the case. But nevertheless, about this Kiely Rodni case, what I've noticed is that a lot of people go around in circles. Was it an accident? Was it foul play? Look, when a tragedy happens and the public goes around in circles concerning the tragedy, it reveals one thing. It reveals that the public doesn't want to admit something. Now, before I go into that, let's just consider the following. This girl disappeared on the 6th of August, and she was found on the 21st of August by Adventures with Purpose, which is a volunteer organization. Now look, law enforcement looked for her at the lake, didn't find her. A volunteer organization that was and still is active on YouTube was able to locate her. Well, that's embarrassing. Now, what if this case happened in the 1980s, where there was no social media and no YouTube? Let's say somewhere in the 1980s or 70s, such thing happened. Likely they would have never found the car. And this whole thing would become a cold case. Everyone would have, quote unquote, moved on, go to college, graduate, have families, have children, and maybe 20, 30 years later, they would find a car and a cold case begins. It's because there is social media today that a lot of people were notified of the case to begin with, and that triggered Adventure with Purpose also to get involved. So, without the internet, she wouldn't have been found that quickly. We can conclude that. Law enforcement did their thing, didn't find her. People on the internet were curious. Adventure with Purpose was also approached. They were also active online. They found her. That shows me that the public did not expect to find her. Okay, some of you already know where I'm going with this. When you look at the reactions from the public concerning her body being found, it seems as if they were shocked the body was found. Well, yeah, of course they're shocked that body is found of a 16-year-old underwater, dead. I'm not talking about the natural shock that, oh dear, she was found, she's dead, she's found there. No, I'm not talking about that. You kind of get the feeling as if a lot of these people were shocked the body was found that quickly. Look, if a situation is off, insiders may not notice it that quickly because they're part of what goes on. They may feel something is off, they may have some red flags, but they may not realize what goes on. An outsider will walk by and can clearly notice something's off here. Now, can it happen that an outsider is wrong about something? Absolutely, it can happen. But if many people, many outsiders from all over the earth look at the situation and they all pick up that something is wrong, then something truly is wrong. Now, what do the people do once it's obvious something's wrong with the situation? Well, they have to admit it. And they have to come to logical conclusions based on the facts. What does it often happen? No. I'm an anthropologist. I know how human beings tend to operate in groups. I don't know everything, but I do know the following. When something is disturbing and painful to admit, the public will often either sugarcoat it by diminishing how bad it is, or they will distract other people with emotional drama. Those are the defense mechanisms often used by the public. I'm not talking about mainstream media. I'm not talking about the government. I'm not talking about corporations. I'm talking about the public. That's something the public often does. Example given. Let's say that you have a pupil that was humiliated by a teacher. All the other children saw it. They reported to their parents. Well, why did the teacher feel so comfortable to go so far? Well, because there was a climate of neglect going on at the school. Now, the children are quite young, maybe 10, 11 years old. It's too painful for them to process this, so they may get along with any superficial explanation. They may even blame the other child for what the teacher did. But later in life, they have to admit, man, that was messed up. If the parents have to admit back then that this teacher went too far, they need to ask themselves, why didn't we pay close attention to the teachers our children have at school? So then they need to admit neglect from themselves. So that what happened to one pupil in that school was a fruit of a neglectful environment. So those that are part of the neglectful environment have a hard time admitting this about themselves. So they may either begin to blame the pupil, scapegoat the pupil, or they may, have hyper empathy towards the pupil just to make themselves look good, some emotional drama. That's an example I'm using now. When you look at this case, I'm not talking about the locals directly there in Turkey. I'm talking about people online and also other folks who have mentioned this. Those came forward. It is as if they don't want to admit that something appears off with that community there in Turkey. Some want to be polite. They were taught by their parents to not be rude and not to open your mouth unless people ask you to or whatever. So they have their convictions they live by. That's maybe one of the reasons. Others are not doing that because they may be afraid of backlash online or whatever. Well, I'm saying it as it is. Something's off with that community. Seriously. A 16-year-old goes missing. Police thinks it's an abduction. Police makes an effort to look for her at the lake. They don't find her. A volunteer organization does. So that means the law enforcement have to be examined. There should be a lot of criticism on law enforcement. There should be a political inquiry into this. I mean, how come a volunteer organization can do a better job than law enforcement? That means that the government of the state of California failed. Why are no political inquiries into this? I mean, anywhere in the world where law enforcement does such a horrible job, there will be political consequences. Why is no political consequence over here? And it's a first world nation. It's not a third world country. It's a first world nation, so-called the United States. Look, apart from law enforcement not doing such a good job, because they should have found her. I mean, come on, it's the United States. It's not some third world poor nation. But apart from that, the fact that there was not much credit given to Adventure with Purpose, the volunteer organization that found this victim, that speaks volumes. Listen, people online gave Adventure with Purpose more credit than the so-called locals. Many people online were shocked how Adventure with Purpose was treated. I mean, come on. They found her body. And the body was not that completely decomposed yet, so they could still do an autopsy. Adventure with Purpose, who were volunteers, they had no obligation to go into this case. They went for it, and they found her. Everyone should be clapping their hands for them. They should be getting a reward. They should be praised for it. Oh. But it's most people online, outsiders, that celebrate Adventure with Purpose. Why aren't the locals celebrating them? I'm not saying none of the locals did. But why are the locals so quiet? Listen, that alone shows you that people did not want her to be found. I'm not saying everyone there in Truckee. No. If I'm wrong on this, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm correct on this. But it appears as if the public just want this all to go away. Oh, she's missing, likely abducted, or maybe she ran away, whatever, and years pass by, and then suddenly the body's found. And by then, everyone has moved on already, and it's a fake memory of the past. Only for the close relatives is still hurtful. This Kiely Rodni thing, it appears that it's supposed to be a cold case that would linger for years or decades. But now that the body was found, the locals have to deal with what happened. And it seems as if nobody was willing to deal with anything. So, if the public just wanted to be left alone, not dealing with anything, and now Adventure with Purpose arrives and bang, she's there, and Adventure with Purpose succeeds where law enforcement failed, so now the public has to deal both with the misfortune that happened and with the deficiencies in the local law enforcement. So, when the public, again, I told you before, when the public encounters something disturbing that they don't want to deal with, they either sugarcoat it or they distract it with emotional drama. Why? Because stonewalling the event is not possible because it's in your face. If it's not in your face, you can stonewall it by ignoring it or pretending that it didn't happen. But when it's in your face and you can't walk away from it, the public either, as I mentioned before, they sugarcoat it or they start emotional drama. I see a lot of folks online being dramatic about this case. Why? Because they don't want to admit the obvious. And I'm not there with the locals, but what it appears sometimes that the locals also didn't want this to come out. Listen, if this was truly just an accident, the response and reactions from the locals would have been a bit different. Yeah, but Rashid, everyone grieves their own way. I'm not talking about grief. If something was truly a spontaneous act that suddenly shocked and overwhelmed the public, there wouldn't have been such a cultic vibe around this case. This case seems like something cultic that was going on, that went wrong, that they tried to cover up, but now it's out there and they have to deal with it. Look, I don't think I'll make any more videos about this case, because I'm not into this case. I've just noticed that there's this obsession developing about this case, because this is how YouTube works. If you make a video about something, or you search for something once, similar topics are recommended to you. So for the past week, I've been noticing that people are kind of losing on this case. Some people even started fights over YouTube. One YouTuber even accused some other individual of pedophilia just because the other individual was talking a lot about the case. So people have started wars over this case. And those wars have nothing to do with the case at all. That's what I mean. Emotional drama. But Rashid, that's how YouTube works. People thrive on drama and you don't get it. Just because it's YouTube doesn't mean it's not real life. YouTube is done by real human beings. So there are real human motives behind it. Why would the public, who wasn't there, generate drama about the case? Because there's something there they don't want to see, but they saw it and they can't unsee it. So they only want to distract themselves from having to admit what they've seen. That is what goes on. So whether it was an actual accident or not, something is off with that community over there. As simple as that. And I want folks to address this. Any other thing about this case being addressed is just distraction. Why don't people address that there's something off with that community? Is it maybe because if they admit that in that scenario something was off with the community, that they may have to reflect on their own lives, realize, similar things happen in my community too? Well, then it gets too close. If something bad happened over there, you can emotionally distance yourself from it, saying, oh, it happened over there. But if that thing happened over there, if it's not that, different from what goes on around you, then you realize similar things can happen over here too. So now people get uncomfortable. And that's why they build this psychic wall of drama. So apart from the Kiely Rodni case, when the public generates drama about a topic, there's something they don't want to be confronted with. And that something is what you need to look out for. Because if you measure that one thing, and you're not aware it's that sensitive, you may become the next victim. So, learn to be alert and learn to use your intuition. Well, that's it for now. Keep on agreeing with Christ. Be at peace. And if you're a troll coming to this video, you are blocked. And you get spiritual repercussions on you by the Heavenly Father. So don't do it. Anyway, be at peace and see you all in my next live stream.